Hey everybody, it's Andrea again with another video. I want to talk a little bit more about Green Party politics. And I want to deal with this question of us being a spoiler party in relation to what's going on with the Montana Green Party right now, and to draw some correlations to what happened with the Nevada Green Party in 2016, and really explore what it is to be a spoiler and, issue a challenge to those Democrats that feel very fragile about inclusion of the Green Party into the political spectrum. So you may not realize it, but this week the Montana Green Party filed an injunction in federal court. And the reason why they did that was because they collected way more than enough signatures to get their party recognized in Montana as a legitimate political party. The law says either a certain percentage, I think it's 1% of the total votes that were cast for governor, if I'm not mistaken, or 5,000 signatures, whichever is less. And so they collected something like almost 8,000 signatures statewide to get on the ballot. And now ballot position, ballot access is very, very important. A lot of you who have not dealt with Green Party internal politics and trying to get a party started for the Green Party, this is very important. And it shows to voters that you are a legitimate political entity. When your candidates run, it greatly lessens the burden to them in terms of spending money, time, trying to get petition signatures to appear on the ballot. And so what the voter will see when a party has ballot access is Juan Sanchez G, or GRN, depending on how your state does it. So this really brings us more in line with the duopoly party of the Democrats and Republicans, who have automatic ballot access. So anyway, Montana collected nearly 8,000 signatures. They have a peculiarity about the ballot access laws in Montana, is that you have to choose or you have to get certain number of signatures in each one of their congressional districts or each one of their counties. I'll put the correction there. And so they did that. And of course, the Democrat Party, including the current executive director as well as their former chair of the Democratic Party in Montana, challenged the signatures. In some cases, the signatures were people had printed their name in both spaces. And it was a handful of signatures. It was like 83 maybe out of the nearly 8,000 signatures that they got. Originally, the Secretary of State said, yep, these are fine, but of course, just like in all states, you can challenge petition signatures, and so of course the Democrats did. And so this question of the distribution of signatures throughout the state is what the Montana Green Party is challenging right now. Because long story short, what has happened is that these nearly 8,000 people were disenfranchised because of this particularity in the Montana state ballot access law. And so they're thinking, well, that's not necessarily all that fair. You're disenfranchising the votes of and the voices of all those people who, want to see a Green Party succeed and be a viable alternative. And of course, step one for viability for a party is to actually have ballot access. What we've seen with this is that the Democrats could not handle a challenge to Jon Tester, who was a Democratic senator from Montana. Back in the day when I was a Democrat, we would categorize him maybe as a blue dog. He definitely is a neoliberal. I mean, the excuse is always, well, Montana is such a conservative state and this, that, and the other. And yet there were nearly 8,000 people that were ready to see a left-leaning party have ballot access to Montana. So again, this is another demonstration of the Democratic Party really not having contact with their base, right? Since 8,000 people were ready to have that party go ahead and be leftist and lean left and lean progressive, this shows that Jon Tester doesn't understand what's in his state. Well, and I guess we can chalk it up to the fact that he's in Washington, but there's a Montana Democratic Party that should know better. So anyway, this is an interesting twist, though. Ever since this kind of legal action has started in the last within the last month and a half or so, there's been this resurgence of this story that's been tweeted out, and people have sent it to me, that came out in March of 2018. And it was this peculiarity in which this person who is normally associated with the Republican Party, with the GOP, got himself supposedly on the ballot to challenge Jon Tester for Senate. And what's interesting when you look into this guy's background is that he actually ran for state legislature as a libertarian. He was on the Republican payroll back in 2015, but he's also kind of like the registered agent for a local ballot initiative there in Montana. So this is a demonstration of someone who's kind of bouncing around looking for relevance. And because of the fact that ballot access laws to protect the rights for minor parties or qualified political organizations, sometimes they're called in different states, it's easy for someone to get on the ballot and claim that they're green. This guy was not authorized by the Green Party whatsoever. They already had two candidates that they were going to run. But another peculiarity of the Montana ballot access laws for candidates is that you have to pay something like 1 or 1.5%. I think it's only 1% of the salary of the person whose office you're seeking. And so in this case, Jon Tester makes $174,000 in his role as a U.S. Senator. And so there was a fee that had to be paid of $1,740. And then you file a form. You don't have to check in with the political party at all. And boom, you're on the ballot, right? When we talk about the kinds of people that want to get motivated in the Green Party and the rationale for them wanting to do that, a lot of times these are people from the working class. The economy's not working for them. They're underwater when it comes to healthcare, a lot of times with their mortgages, all of these other things like this. So these are people that are suffering some economic pressures. And the likelihood that someone who's your rank and file green can just magically come up with $1,740 to get on the ballot is really difficult. And so you can see that someone who's normally associated with the GOP, with the Republican Party there in Montana, and has been kind of bouncing around doing some other campaigns and some other political work of that nature, and has been on the payroll of the GOP, will have access to the resources in order to be able to do this thing. Now, I'm going to state for the record, though, that the last time, according to the media there, that this guy actually got paid by the Republican Party was in 2015. So we're talking 3 years ago. But this story is kind of resurging because it fits in with the narrative that the Green Party is upstart and, we're spoilers and look, we even have these Republicans that, we're serving the Republicans and we helped Trump win. And it's all of that storyline, the crybaby sort of like, Democrat fragility storyline that we're spoilers and that we're actually just offshoots of the Republican Party, which couldn't be further than the truth. Many of us in the Green Party are actually socialists. Some of us are just kind of your garden variety progressive. We have kind of a right wing as well in the Green Party as well, but we're essentially a left-leaning party. And the idea that we carry water for Republicans and we're really just the decoy to pull votes away from Democrats is just so absurd, especially when you think about the fact that the Republicans themselves have their own spoilers, and that's the libertarians, right? And so why aren't they doing the same kinds of things to the libertarians? Well, they figure ideologically that they're probably aligned, I think. But they're also willing to put their resources and raise money. And yeah, we can talk all day about where Republican money comes from. But they're actually willing to put shoulder to the plow, right? And get their candidates across the finish line. Whereas you have this other situation with the Democrats in which they're trying to please many, many different masters, right? They're trying to please, funders, corporate funders. They're trying to, look relevant to the working class and that are still part of the Democratic Party rank and file, trying to do all of these other things. And so they're so divided and they're so out of touch with their base that they really worry about a legitimate challenge. Um, and so, we have to talk about um, for whom voting should be fair. Voting should be fair for the individual, Jane Q. Public, who is sitting at home and that is underwater with their mortgage and is about to declare bankruptcy because of the medical bills, because we don't have single payer, where fracking is going on in their backyard, where we have environmental, economic, and social racism going on in our communities, right? So, that is the person that needs more choices, more democracy. We're not here, the democracy doesn't exist in order to protect the rights of a corporate political party. And if you don't want your voters to look elsewhere, then start being relevant, right? But, these legal challenges are very, very similar to what Democrats do all over the country. And, we really need to talk about it, and we need to be open, about what actually happens. And so I want to kind of bounce over to Nevada. I actually served as the regional campaign coordinator for the Jill Stein campaign in 2016, and my territory was the southwest of the United States, which included Nevada. And of course, my home state of Colorado, Utah, Texas, Arizona. Great, great bunch of people. I love them. And I was there when the Nevada Party was getting started, and they were totally scrappy. They, had to collect thousands and thousands of signatures to get on the ballot. It was something along the lines of, it was about 6,000 signatures, 5,431 signatures that they needed in 2016 to qualify in order to put their party on the ballot, right? And they actually turned in 8,520 signatures. However, most of those signatures ended up getting thrown out because what happened was that there was this bogus signature collection firm that approached the Nevada Green Party and actually falsified many of the signatures. Now, we put this in the context, and those of you who are former Bernie Sanders supporters, you remember that Nevada Democratic State Convention, where Dolores Huerta was there and she was yelling at people, and and chairs were being thrown allegedly, and they were blaming that on the Bernie Sanders delegates. And then it turns out that there was all kinds of pressure put in that Democratic convention where they weren't respecting their rules. They were shouting down dissent. They were doing all of these other things, right? So these two things are roughly happening in the same time frame. It was material, in my opinion. It would have been material for the viability of the Nevada Democratic Party for there not to be a Nevada Green Party. And so this fraudulent company came forth. They, turned in fraudulent signatures that were clearly forged. There was somebody that was convicted of a felony of vote tampering back in January, and just this last week as well, another person as well. So it looks like this company was actually going out and hiring people that were kind of down on their luck and having them collect these signatures, or at least partially, and then do fraudulent signatures on top of it, right? So, there was a woman named Adrienne, and I'm going to show her picture here, who was the prime signature gatherer and just completely disappeared in thin air, right? And there was this, this call from the Nevada Green Party, hey, if you know the whereabouts about this woman, Adrienne, let us know. We got to ask her questions, this sort of thing like that. And so the challenge was successful. And it remains to be seen whether or not the Nevada Green Party is going to be able to kind of muster up the strength, because this was extremely demoralizing to that group. And there's such great people in Nevada, and I have really nice relationships with many of the leadership and some of the rank and file folks, and I'm just hoping beyond hope that these folks can kind of put some more gas in their tank and keep going. Jill Stein wasn't even able to be on the ballot there in 2016. And so there wasn't a legitimate choice. And all of these people who suffered that disenfranchisement in that 2016 Nevada Democratic State Convention should have had a way to express their dissent and hopefully, do that with a vote for Jill Stein and for a Jamu Baraka. But they were robbed of that opportunity. The cool thing about Nevada is that they do have a choice, a legal choice, and it's none of the above. NOTA, N-O-T-A. And, kind of like inside baseball, Nevada political history, there was a congressional race several years ago where NOTA actually won. And so they had to have the election all over, right? And so it looks like some people did vote in 2016 for presidential for NOTA. But, that's a conscious choice, and a lot of people like to say, well, that's capricious. You shouldn't do that. You really should. No. You vote your conscience, right? You vote your conscience if you want to choose NOTA. You vote your conscience if you want to choose the Green Party. You vote your conscience if you choose not to vote because you can't deal with any of the choices. But that's a conscious, legitimate choice. So, all of this, crying that comes from the Democratic Party and their staunchest supporters about how we're spoilers, how we're only working for the Republicans, this and that and the other. The reality of the situation is that when you have these sorts of legal challenges, when you have these kind of dirty politics going on, we're not the spoilers. The Democratic Party people who do this kind of stuff, they're the spoilers. They're the actual spoilers because they're spoiling your opportunity to have a choice, your opportunity to express your political voice, to, at the very least, express, if you are a Democrat, to express to your party that you don't like what they're doing, right? And so, again, I maintain, because I've seen this across the board, when Greens run, they pull in people who weren't going to vote in the first place. And registered Greens are not going to vote for Democrats. They just don't, for the most part, right? And so when we don't have a Green Party on a state ballot, when we don't have Green candidates on a ballot, it deprives the right of people to express their political views in the way that they see fit. And if the Democrat Party doesn't like us on ballots, they need to make sure that they don't make mistakes, like allowing nearly 8,000 people in Montana to sign and therefore demonstrate that they want a different alternative other than Jon Tester and the Montana Democratic Party. So Greens, push back. And people who are sympathetic to the Green Party, push back. Don't let this Democrat fragility go unchecked. We don't owe them anything. We don't ask them for permission for anything. We're just going to move forward and we're going to run our people. And we just, have to keep trying to support each other in these state races. If you have the resources, you might want to visit the mtgreenparty.org. That's the Montana Green Party website. That's mtgreenparty.org. And send them a donation, or even just, if you don't have that, share their information and find them on Facebook as well. And spread the word about what actually happens when we challenge Democrats. And we're going to continue to do it because you're just not good enough for us. Your politics are not good enough for us. We need a different way. We need a party that's anti-war. We need a party that's pro-justice. We need a party that's pro-reparations. We need a party that is anti-nuclear, that is actually going to do the things and have the policy to move us forward in this country. So help out the Montana Green Party. And while you're at it, visit the Nevada Green Party as well. They're nvgreenparty.org. I would imagine that now that they're starting to gear back up to have this discussion about going for ballot access. So visit them at nvgreenparty.org. Share their stuff on social media. Send them a donation. Even if you only have $5 today, support what's going on for ballot access for Montana and for Nevada, for both of them. These are people-powered state campaigns. We're not getting corporate money. We don't entertain that kind of corruption. So it's up to us. So thanks for listening. Support Montana, support Nevada Green Parties. Thanks a lot, and keep pushing back on that fragility from the Democrats. Bye now.